always
few
ask the
minutes.
chat, and I got traumatized because I did a live for 2 hours, and I didn't look over at the chat. I tried to go through the information, and nobody could hear me. So it was like a two
Oh,
hour
Oh
live.
no.
I was silent, and there were people saying it the whole time. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. So I was totally traumatized for a long time after that. And every time I start a live, I'm nervous.
yeah. I know, me too, even in my own little show. Okay, guys, I hope we're live. I'm Veronica Bartolini with Codebreaker Real Talk, and I'm excited today because I have Barry Littleton, boom, 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 on the show. I've been wanting to talk to Barry for a long time in camera, and he helped me a lot in 2018 and 2019 because I had dealings with the 12 Blacks, and Drama Dance helped me. And then I have Teresa here. And before Teresa had a question real quick, but how are you, Barry?
I'm good. How you doing? It's nice to meet you, Teresa, and thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
No problem.
Anytime.
Well, so we were before the show, we were talking about Three Eye Atlas, and so many people. I started noticing because it was so many people were saying, but it came and it went, it didn't do anything, and then now they're saying that it dumped a bunch of arsenic on us. I'm like, well, from all the way up there, it got all the way down here, and nothing happened to it in the delivery process. Really? I'm not
Yeah.
a rocket scientist at all.
Well, people
You
got
know, it's
irritated
the
with me because I
military.
said it. Sorry, what's that?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I
I,
just
I,
said people got irritated
yeah.
with me because I said it was just a comment, a rock. But people
Yeah,
didn't like that, and they're saying it's supposed to be upgrading our DNA from 200 million
years ago. Yeah.
miles away. They're going to be doing it. It's going to be releasing all these probes that changes everything here, and it's got all this artificial stuff with it, and nothing
I know
happened at
I had
all.
a
And then
couple of
everybody just kind
friends
of forgets
that
about it.
I had a couple of friends from the MAGA meeting that I go to all the time, and they're saying, I can't listen to this anymore. This is too scary. I said, then you haven't been listening.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
A little bit of research sometimes will solve some of that, looking at some of the science, but you got
yeah,
a decisive part of the population that doesn't want to do that. They want fantasy. That's more important than the science and the truth. So it
yeah.
is what it is. I
It
think it
got
was,
kind of interesting for a minute there for me. I was like, really? Is this really going to happen? It'd be nice if it did. And then that Abby Lowell character said, "Oh, we got a signal." I'm like, my ass. No, no, they didn't get a signal.
Tesla already came up with all that stuff. They're just feeding off of Tesla and Neumann and Al Bielek's information on, Tesla was so smart. I mean, and then right now, what I don't know about you, Barry or Teresa, but I feel that it's just the military. It's part of the whole fake alien invasion with alien invasions, New World Order crap. They're trying to show, the big boy toys. And how do you know it
Well,
wasn't just the government who's chemtrailing over us and
right,
wanting to find
exactly.
on 3D Atlas?
Um,
Go ahead.
I always wonder, like what you just said, Veronica. So it really rings true with my soul, because the 13 families are the ones that are in charge of all the historic information, who goes to an archaeological site, who goes to a dig, who gets what, and what country gets it. And I'm like, oh man, oh, pretty cat.
it's a situation for me. I can only speak for myself, but I heard the exact same stuff that we heard about Three Eye Atlas when Halley's Comet came around. So much stuff. There
I
was so
know.
much stuff about that. Then again, when Hail Bob came around. Now
Yeah,
I will admit, Hail Bob I was paying attention to, because at that time there was a gentleman that had come through my city. Actually, there were two, Robert Morning Sky, and there was another gentleman, Robert Joseph,
Robert, yeah,
and he was talking. They were saying how they thought that Hail Bob was actually the Blue Kachina, the one that would
right,
come followed by the Red Star. And the fact that Hail Bob was so visible without any type of aid always
right.
shocked me to that degree, and how it just seemed like it came out of nowhere. And at
It
that time,
wanted
I
us
was
to know.
deep into Art Bell at that time, and Art was all over it, man. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and it was another one that before Oumuamua, it was called Comet Sighting. It came in here on weird trajectories and things. So each time something
Oh.
like that happens, and I'm always looking for something like when I reference my own past life memories, it's something that is similar to a book. I don't think I have it sitting here. It's called The Living Library by Barbara Martinique. She wrote it around
Oh.
the same time that she wrote the one that was Bringers of Dawn, but it's different in terms of she's talking about like what we would call a Bracewell probe that was sent out from old Earth and comes around every so many thousand years. But when you think about it, what I seem to remember, have memories of, we're dealing with something that would be like a Bracewell probe. And when you see things like Star Trek, the first movie, first movie, which is kind of a little rough, but they dealt with the thing that was V'ger, and that's something they dealt with in another one of the
Oh,
original series
Beeger.
that they
Yeah,
called
that's right.
Nomad. If you remember Nomad on the original series, yeah,
Yeah.
Nomad. Those are both probes that went out, got changed, and wind up accumulating so much information. But we start dealing with this living library, same type of thing. And how long before it comes back? And has it already come back? So for that reason, I watch some of these, the near Earth objects like
Right.
CT99, SKG 344, and there's a few others that are very near Earth objects that could be Bracewell probes that don't seem to make the media hype that things like 3i Atlas did. So,
Well, they
it's just
can't
food for
spin
thought.
it in their own direction. That's why.
Yeah, and I agree with both of you. The other day I was at the Goodwill looking at books for NASA, and I was looking at just a bunch of spacecraft because ever since I was little, I was enamored with just aircraft. And then of course Tom Cruise comes along, and I'm the pilot now. And then later on in life, I find out, oh, well, I've been a pilot for these black projects. I've had many dreams about that, right? But it's like they were showing these spacecrafts that, oh, there were NASA shut it down and they're not using them anymore. I'm like, bullshit. They're using them for some black project. They're using these probes. You know,
Or
when
something.
I was when I was a kid, we buried one of those time capsules. Did you guys get to do that? Like bury the
Yeah,
time
we did
capsule?
it at our school when I was in the third grade, I think, second or third grade in California. I don't think they were wasting their time doing that kind of shit when I was in a higher grade.
Mm-hmm. I know in fifth grade, I always say that I was like um, invited to go to a NASA project because I swear there was two men in black uniforms that came in. I was in fourth grade, sorry, and we had to do these globes. I don't know if you did, but the Earth globes, and paint them, and then make a Earth and different planets, and then we did a whole starship. We had a whole starship. We had to dress in black and white, and we worked. These supposedly we worked for NASA, and I swear they recruited me there, and I still have the pictures, and I put them up on Facebook and in my book. But Barry, talking about, can you explain, excuse me, what we were talking about earlier? I thought you were talking about tag-alongs. Tag-alongs, Dark Journalist talks about how they tag along these, we'll just say sea urchins or creatures or beings that tag along from the ships on the bottom, from the ocean, because we know that there's ships in the earth and in the water that need the salt water to use the energy to. But anyway, Dark Journalist was talking about the tag-alongs that tag along these ships for the military. And then also dolphins and other beings can actually take relics. That's how I was used in the dolphin program. Take relics from here up and then go through a wormhole. But Barry, you were talking about these beings that attach to something. Can you go on with that?
Called Space Remorse. And these ones it's interesting that there's a different angle to it, what you just mentioned, but these ones are organisms that are actually born in space. And we start looking at things like space plankton and things like that, and the different type of space organisms, microorganisms, but particularly the space plankton. And you start going from the micro to the macro. you have these ones, and I call them space remoras because they attach. And from what I was shown during my contact, sometimes they'll be close to where a mako or black hole is located. So when going through, they might jump a ship before it goes through a frequency jump. And I find that interesting. They attach, but like in the way a remora attaches to a shark. But I find it interesting that for whatever reason, they can apparently withstand the dimensional or the transition through the mako, the frequency jump, the vibrational jump, the dimensional jump, whatever cool little words we want to use. But I find that very interesting.
Quantum.
And they feed on, I think they do almost a type of what do you call it when you sync with the parent when you connect with something, actually imprint. I think they do an imprint with the ship itself, because the ships I've dealt with have a biological nature to it. So we know we're dealing with the symbiosis of those type of creatures. So that's all I was mentioning. So it's interesting what you had mentioned on that. Thinking some similarities there.
Thank you, Barry. Now, I just remembered I had a dream. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a sea. It's like what I had in my dream. I'm sorry. It's just so tiny. So it was like a sea ship, like a shape. Okay, so it's I've had two visions. One of them is like a C shape, but the one in my dream was a circular one that had they were part of the. Did I tell you about the bronze beings? The dream that I had about the bronze beings, where they look like crows, or they look like these bronze birds, and everything is bronze. They have their plates. They're big birds with beak, and they're bronze. And then the little ones come out of them behind them with arrows. They're cherubs. They're like little I call them the cherub kings, and they're also bronze. So they were like throwing this. I know it's another subject, but kind of like this a nail, but it's a boomerang, and it's like in half. And then I saw their ship, and their ship is also bronze, and it has all that metal stuck on there. So I wonder if that's because it's like the metal goes like it just collects things in space. And I don't know what to call that ship. All I know is I call them the bronze bird ship because they've been in my dreams.
Magnetic fields of it attracts it. Is that what it is, or?
That's what I'm thinking.
You've got a race of beings that can do that when they go through planetary spheres with crystals. They collect crystals like that, and they can mine also. And they go into the mine. They go in mine into the planet, and they collect crystals like that. Almost the way the roots of a tree would when the tree comes up. Sometimes you see those crystals in there, especially if it's an active place. Yeah, quite interesting.
They use crystals. No wonder they were here last night, I think, because my living room is a mess.
Oh my gosh, I get dust here.
My whole house is full of crystals and gemstones, and I dread moving. Oh my God, I gotta win the lottery or something.
For when looking at technology, it's worth really examining where our science is currently going with quasi crystals that have non-natural lattices that are formed, and also photon crystals as well. And so that's thing. I started getting experiences with that when I was very young. For example, like this thing here that I thought it was like an engine first, but it's more like a brain as well. And these crystals were about 10 feet tall, and they emitted a type of bioluminescence or chemical luminescence from the inside.
Yeah.
And they turn on, these things start spinning. And that's why the thing on plasma the other day, because you couldn't see these crystals anymore, but it starts glowing, and there's a vacuum effect here going, what I believe is magnetic containment here. And it's that type of level. But to think that it takes us into some things like, at what point does plasma also become conscious?
Right,
and
right.
There was a being there that was near this thing. This thing was huge, and it's telling me that cannot just power planetoids and also legion ships. It also heals, and it heals human flesh.
Nice.
So I know some of the ships can heal us, like in our light body and our energy dream body, We've got those that can heal, and those things that's making the sound when it turned on is woo 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 woo. Sounds like when the doggone elder swings the, what is that, the bull roar, or that insect. They put a thing through it and woo 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 woo. A lot of people have
Oh
heard that.
yeah.
I've heard it with other crafts too, but that machine made that type of a sound. So anyway,
I've
sorry,
heard
that
that.
technology, I guess I should say.
Look at Barry. I drew this. It kind of looks like what you're looking at. So this here, I wrote about it in the third book, and it's called Sonic. I saw Sonic 3, and this is a
It's Sonic 3, is that what you said?
yeah, the movie Sonic 3, and it reminded me of a dream that I had when I was in Area 51, and this is actually the machine that they use to get energy, and they create chaos. I call it the death ray. Well, it's called the death ray, but I call it chaos energy used to destroy worlds or glass worlds. And then I finally saw the movie Halo, and I had never seen it. And it's like these beings in here, and they're like creating energy from chaos, and they're using that frequency. This is the frequency that I drew here in the middle. It's yellow. It's kind of hard to see because of the background. Sorry. It's yellow, and it's using this chaos energy to either glass worlds or attack people or destroy worlds. That's in a negative way.
Well,
Sorry, but
let me ask you a question. Have all of your experiences been negative? When I follow
no,
everything you've said so far, they mostly sound like they're about like 95% negative.
most of them have been.
And I'll ask you another question. It's fascinating because it's a point now where there's technology that can prove things, and it's not so secretive anymore. And when it took a while before I had actually met like my first. Well, I met a couple, but not like this one, an official targeted individual, and somebody that had scans of what their body was emitting. And right now it's amazing because the stuff you say about dreams, you sound like somebody who's definitely been experimented on with the dream engineered technology, the targeted dream incubation. But also, what they're doing now is they're taking that and turning the dreams into memories, and in those memories into reality. And they're doing it remote, and they're doing it quick. And that type of neural programming is really a trip. And when I started finding out what the digital twin cyborgs are and how they use that technology to download this 21 and back experiences into these things that are going to mine other planets like Mars or wherever. It's really a trip. That's stuff that can be looked up. So I was going to mention something because I don't know if you know about them. That's the Nexus, Mind Nexus is what they're called. And they do these clinics. And what they use is this technology that's called nonlinear junction detection technology. And it was originally stuff that was used to like sweep the president's room for bombs and stuff, for wires. Okay, but this can be changed to where it's actually seeing what frequencies a person's non-human frequencies a person's body's emitting. And they're finding these nanosisters, excuse me, so get too excited, nanosensors and semiconductors and bioconductors in people's bodies in mass at certain places like the nostrils, the ears for Havana and stuff like that. But yeah, and then even some of them, they're even being done in oh gosh, Ron, I can never say this word right. Mnemonic chamber, which is like the anti-sound chambers, which has no other frequencies, and people are still emitting that with those things from even in there. And then even more, I'm seeing now where these microsensors, these frequencies are being, a lot of them are radio frequencies sometimes, but they can be traced back to the place of origin. Like somewhere called Milsat. Have you ever heard of that? MILSAT? Com, Milsat.com. I'll pull up later. I'll pull up their emblem, and it's a I want to say it's military satellite, and it's a $76 billion budget for them. Look, it can be looked up. It's not just Barry talking weird.
That one, I believe you because I have seen it in my dreams. And it's actually just like Transformer, one of the movies where the alien goes and gets all the information from the satellite. It's like that. That's what
like the Leonoid,
yeah.
The nano satellite that has the mother that's doing all the communication. Yeah,
Yes.
It's interesting. It's self-replicating technology and self-repairing technology. And it's really a trip that they're doing that. There was that guy 14 years ago. Gosh, I can't. Imbado, Imbdo. His last name was. It started with a B like yours, but it was different. But he had the syringe with, like he said, it was 1 million nanobots in there. That was 14 years ago, and he said they were
Oh my
self-assembling
God.
and self-repairing. I mean, that's on YouTube. Anybody can look that up. And can you imagine how far they've gone in 14 years with that? And I'll tell you, Veronica, another company I saw connected to these frequencies people are emitting, and that's from it was Intel. And at first I had to go look them up because I was like, man, when I was a kid, Intel made like the head games like Merlin and Simon or something like that. You know what I mean? And I was unaware how much they're doing now when it comes into implants. And these new implants are like $1 million and stuff. They're actually on the market. And it's like, my dear Lord, you know what I mean? It changes everything. And they're putting people into, like you, into these hive minds. And that's why you have one person might have this experience, but then another person, oh, yeah, that happened to me too. And I'm hearing that starting to be emphasized more and more. And I say this not in a way to take from anybody's experience, but I was obsessed with trying to figure out why contact like I had my whole life is so different from the people like you had. You know what I mean? What was the reason behind that? And what also were the commonalities? That's why I reached out to like people like you and anybody that would. Didn't always get the best response, but sometimes I did. Like this is an example. But I mean, putting that together right now, like how they can show that. But this Mind Nexus, they're starting to go around the country and they do these scanning clinics with that technology. And I think it's
Yeah.
just very beneficial because right now, Veronica, as you know as well as I do, and you too, Teresa, we don't have any neurocognitive law of any type. And they're experimenting on people with super advanced technology that's changing people's realities, changing the whole narrative of contact and us becoming a type 1 civilization. And now seeing this through some of the work I've done with Jessica, like, I've given her 88 targets now, I think we've done, blind targets. And a couple of them, her brother bit off a little bit more than he could chew a couple of times, just on, and one of them would be like TRAPPIST-1, if you're both familiar with that. The TRAPPIST-1 solar system, it's in, it's not Cancer, constellation. Anyway, but it's got two exoplanets, like a row of exoplanets, but two of them are
The
in
one with the horse?
yeah.
Is that the one by the horse?
By
with
what?
the arrow? When you said that, I got the vision of the guy with the horse and the arrow. What's that zodiac sign?
Aries.
Oh,
Is it Aries then?
I think so.
let me see. I could ask Google real quick, since I lack the knowledge to tell you exactly. Where is the TRAPPIST-1 solar system located? "40 light years in the constellation Aquarius.
Oh, okay.
Aquarius, yeah. So, but they've got these two planets that are in the Goldilocks zone, habitable zone, and one of them, Linda Moulton Howe had this guy, Buddy Bolton, that looked at one of them, and he got these amphibious beings and everything, and some type of a mothership out there. So I gave this to Jessica Jones, that one, just to see if she got similar data. You know what I mean? And it tripped me out when the day just come back. She's like, "Where is this place?" She's like, "Is this Earth in the future?" And the next thing is, "What's with the open slavery? What's with the slavery? This whole civilization is built on slavery." And she called them like mid rises, which I'm not quite from the big city like you all, but it's but these mid rises, and that just came up again and again, and I kind of connected it to, was it Bill Tompkins that was talking about how the Milky Way is a little less advanced, and we have several species here that have a problem with slavery. Then tying that all the way into what, when I met Tony, like the second time, Tony Rodriguez, we're at the airport and we was there eating like some Wendy's or something. I didn't really know all his story because at the conferences he always spoke before or after me, and I get nervous when I speak, so I wouldn't be in there. I gotta try to get my mind together to go up there and look weird. Anyway, but I was like, "Tell me your story and everything." And he wasn't calling himself a super soldier or secret space program. He started dropping tears immediately, saying, "Man, I'm some sort of slave." He kept making the reference of being a slave, and he started telling me some horrible experiences from childhood all the way up. You know, and I just take all these things and tie them together. You know, and it's negative in that way, and why we would think this is a prison planet. You know,
You
and the
know,
things that
I
come
have
through.
I have so much to tell you. Sex slave. I was used as a sex slave. I wrote about the CIA love bites in book 3, and they just send men after men, military, police. It could be, for me to date them. And that's why I went celibate 4 years ago, because it was just too much. They wanted to know what I knew. DARPA agent was sent to me, and he told me, "Why are you talking about the CIA? You're supposed to not say that." He took me to Oracle Ranch and said, "Do you know how many people I could bury here?" And I'm like, "Well, if you're gonna kill me now," I said, "because I don't give a, flying F. Like, I'm gonna keep talking," I said. And he said, "Is it really about the children?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm mad that they're still taking the children to
Yeah.
experiment like they did with me." Now, I
Were you taken out of school also, or how are they
yes,
taking you? Was it when you got in the military? How are they taking you exactly?
they took me at a
Tag
year and
program
a half.
stuff? Or, sorry.
Yeah, they took me at a year and a half, and then at Head Start, my mom put me at Head Start at 3 years old. So I've been experimented all my freaking life. Okay. And I'm also a $1 million baby, bionic woman. I've had 33 surgeries. I have titanium in me. They're going to get ready to do other things this year. They're going to have like 4 more surgeries. They gave me cancer. The oncologist said, from when they took the glutes out from left to right, I couldn't sit down for 5 months. I had 3 surgeries, 2 blood transfusions with that. It was myoxid liposarcoma stage 3. My oncologist said, "This looks like Agent Orange," he said, "but you're too young to be in Vietnam." And I said, "Sir, I know you don't believe in, special soldiers or super soldiers." I said, "But I have dreams of being in Vietnam. I have dreams of fighting in Afghanistan. My cover here is that I was a police officer for 5 years, okay, for the city of South Tucson. And before that, Pima College. But I lateraled over because I didn't want just to be arresting homeless. I wanted to know what it was to be a real cop." And then this happens. The switch went off. Kill yourself. You're not worth it. The ex took out $100,000 policy on me. I wrote about it, and anyway, they just took out my lower left lung in January. They said I had stage 1. So I have been used since I was a year and a half into the Dolphin program, what they call the Dolphin program. I renamed it for me, Crystal Gates, because I have memories of being in the 13 crystal cities. I have memories of being a dolphin. I have memories of being a mermaid. I have memories of being underwater, just me, being able to breathe. When I saw that movie Avatar Part 3, Fire and Ash, because I haven't seen the second one, that's my family too, the underwater. There's just a lot, Barry. The pen, when you mentioned the pen, I have a dream where there's this short dude, and guess who that short dude is? I didn't know until years later. It was Cyrus Parsa. He showed me a black pen, and he gave me a black, beautiful suit that was like a heart-shaped black suit, and he had a penguin suit on, and he said, "We're going to go on this flight." So we got on an airplane, and he gave me the pen. So I don't know if the pen was probably for me to erase other people's memories, or if it was, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. Now, there's a lot of things I want to go through. If you don't mind, the blacks. You told me that it was Andromeda, because I have a dream of the future. I'm running in this dream, and there's these eagles coming out, but they're in cactus form, but they're eagles coming out from the ground, and I call them the Nephilims. I also have the Nephilim bloodline. I have all kinds of bloodlines, okay? The German, the all kinds. Anyway, so these beings come up from the ground, and there's an earthquake happening, and I'm running. The train station splits, and there's a berm, a huge like berm, and then these beings that have black hair, tight. They're not like I wrote in the movie, in the not the movie. In the first book, Sheila and the 99, my friend Chad helped me to do the AI thing, but it's not like with the dreadlocks or anything. It's just tight head with black, beautiful hair, and then they're dark, they're black. They have two things around their neck that are gold, two gold necklaces, and then they have the beautiful purple, red, some green, yellow, black, these lines, these beautiful rainbow dresses on, and they fly with me. They fly, and then we sit down as the train is going, meaning the earthquake is going this way, people are being split that way. You told me those were the tall blacks. Then, and from Andromeda. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then I'll just tell you two more things, and then you can tell me. After this, I wanted to say there was these black beings that came to me in a dream long before I knew that I had this cancer on my left lung. This was like in 2018. I was being a man, this is a black family with two kids, and the man is on the horse, and he's taking me in a carriage like in the 40s or whatever, 30s. And I'm in the carriage on the floor like this, on the carriage itself, just on my back. And the lady comes with her two kids, and she puts her hands on my chest, and she heals me. Well, years later, I get the cancer on my left breast, left lung. I find that very interesting. And then the other one is the monkeys. I'm swimming in the ocean, and there's a pier, and there's 5 or 6 monkeys that are standing, and they're helping me. They're my family. Now, this last dream that I had, I haven't told you about, and then you can talk, okay? It's just a lot. And I'm so glad you're here, because it's hard to get people like you on the show, because you're busy. So this last dream was very intense. I was in my vehicle. I used to have a Forerunner, 87 Forerunner stick, and then we're going to the border. I don't know why I'm going to the border. There's only me and this agent, and it turns black. My vehicle stops, and I'm like, shoot. I tell myself, I have to go to PT. What's my daughter gonna think if I'm not home, right? In the dream. And so then I end up in this like third world country where there's all people with black hair, dark skin with white, and they're all waiting for medical attention or food. And it's like in just a bunch of rocks, like cave areas, just really weird. And then I tell myself, I gotta get out of here. I go with my vehicle, and I show up again. But now when I show up to the border, it's actually tunnels, and it's the underground base system. And my vehicle is lifted, and I'm placed in there, and there's 2 tunnels, okay? And all I see to my right, because I'm on the left side, all I see is sheriff department vehicles, white vehicles. There's some black, but there's a bunch of SUVs, vehicles that are military, okay? Government, I'm not kidding. I'm not making this shit up. This is like, I was in my dream, what am I doing here? I gotta get home. And then my vehicle turns into the maglev underground. And I'm looking at this huge mountain in front of me. And this is not the first time I have the dream about the mountain, but my eyes, they go like the trains go, they disappear right away. Like white flashes, just like that. And I'm in this train. I'm like, where am I going? I gotta get home. So then the train stops. It's going fast. There's 2 attendants, 2 male attendants, one in the back, one in the front. It's me and another guy. They tell me, you need to get off telepathically. I said, no, I gotta go home. I need to buy a ticket to go back home. They're like, no, you're not going home. Not today. Telepathically. He said, the guy in the back said, no, get down. And the guy in the front said, just go ahead and buy it tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. So then I get down, and there's this huge golf course, you guys. This golf course, really beautiful, decked out, all very clean cut. green golf course. And to the right, I look and there's a dragon. It's a yellow dragon, but he is in like a hologram form, and he goes like this to me. He bows down to me twice, and then he disappears. And there's a lady that comes with the incense. It looks like an incense wand. She says, "Look what I can do with my wand," she tells me, right? And then she turns herself into a bigger person, into whatever she wants. She says, "Now you." And there's a young man beside me. He's dark, black hair, dark skin, like maybe Hispanic, I don't know. She gives me the wand, and I'm like, okay. And then I turn like this, and then I go abracadabra, and then boom. I don't know what I'm turning myself into until I see myself. And I'm wearing like this bikini, and I'm thin, I'm human, but my face is of a monkey. But it's not the huge baboon looking thing. It's a humanoid. Just like I've had dreams of humanoid lions and tigers in my dreams, they are my protectors that I know of, and the monkeys too. So I turned into a monkey, but my hair, it's like a vampire V that I still have, but in my dream it's yellow, and it's in a bun. And I'm like, whoa, and I'm white. I'm like, what am I doing? This is cool. I'm a hybrid monkey. I get all excited. And then to the left, there's another train that comes, and there's a lady that has all these corals on her, like they're part of her. And then I see a man who is like in between, the caveman. He's a caveman, and he's really tall. He has this caveman thing, like that like animal thing on the side, and his hair is big, and he's really hairy. And then I'm talking.
Man! No, I'm sorry, just kidding. Encino Man? Do you look like Pauly Shore?
Man.
Sorry, I'm just kidding, man.
Had green eyes. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'll let you talk, Mary. Sorry. About the slate. Because I need you to tell me, hey, what's up? Like, is this just, what the hell? The Mars. Okay, so I'm in Mars. I wake up in my nightgown in Mars. I'm walking across the street to the where they have the facility, and I live there in the barracks, but I have my nightgown on. I'm not in like a super soldier shirt or nothing, a suit. No, it's my nightgown that I went to sleep with, and I have that thing. Sometimes I wear that hat, the that has protection. It's gray, and I'm wearing that in my dream, and I'm wearing that here, and I wake up there. I'm walking across the street. And I'm like, shoot, I have to get to my barracks, but it's like already my curfew time. I had a curfew time. And then when I walk into one of the facilities, there's these men that are in uniforms, in military uniforms. It's blue and yellow, just like the Ukraine colors. And I have had dreams that I have been in the Ukraine war. But anyway, these guys are soldiers. All their head is shaved. And they're in shackles. They're in shackles. They're in chains, their hands and feet. And these other military guys say, bow down. And so they get on the ground and they tell me, go ahead and go. And then they tell the soldiers, don't look at her. So then they let me in, right? But then I forget something. And I sneak out, and then I sneak back in. I have a yellow Tilly's bag. Now that has to mean something. Yellow means gender neutral in movies, but anyway, so I sneak back into the other side without them seeing me. Like there's like this where my apartment is, and my apartment is just like the one I used to have, but a little bigger, and it's all white. And there's a man there that says, you're supposed to tell me when you're supposed to go. I'm your guard. And I'm like, sorry, and he gets mad at me, and then he leaves, and then this other man comes in. He shapeshifts into a very tall Asian man, black hair, white skin, and then all of a sudden, he turns into, have you guys seen Predator, an alien? He has these teeth that are coming out like in sections, and his hair's turning into these braids, and he's after me now. He's after me now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? There's a knock on the door. There's this guy that comes in with football pads. He has like this really special uniform on and a bat. He says, I'm after you. So then he gets in a fight with the Predator guy. Apparently the Predator guy is like trying to defend me. I don't know. Maybe I'm their property. Who knows? But can you believe the guy with the bat? He kind of looked like James, but it was not James Drake. It was just, he just looked like him. But it wasn't him. And then he ends up killing the guy. And then I run into this place where, you know, when you go on a ship and there's this door, and then it goes and it hides you. And then from there you open another thing, and then you go into a ship to your pod, and then you go. So I'm hiding there, and he's knocking on the door. Like, he opens the door with the bat, he hits it, opens it, and then what I say is, he says, I'm gonna kill you now. And I'm like, no, you're not. And I say out loud, and I wake up saying this, home, 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 3 times, and I'm back in my own room. So that was Mars. I feel like I was.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Anyway, you guys can talk now. I'm done now. Thank you.
All right. The first one, which is you described the melanin dominant men with the braces on, that I can't say would be Andromedan, okay, as much as it would be possibly. And I don't know where they're from, but they might be a little different though with the black praying mantis hybrids. Excuse me. And when we start dealing with that, we hear so much about the mantids and the mantis here and the different types, but very little are the melanin dominant black ones represented. And here on Earth, we do have black praying mantises. And and then you start dealing with those with humanoid form that are hybrid with them. I don't know if they come from AKA dark matter, or which is really plasma that is in the dark state technically due to melanin, but I don't know their exact origin. But the thing about them that kind of makes them unique is sometimes they've been noted to have those rings, but their necks are a little longer than average. They're elongated necks. And when dealing with that, they also have like a different more limbs than we do, like more joints than we do. Okay, so when meeting like in their legs and arms. So, and how it's been presented to me is when you actually meet them, these beings start dancing in front of you, doing this very elegant dance that likes like 10 minutes or so. And what it really is their way of saying hello. It's a hello ritual is what it is. And it makes the people that experience them want to try to dance like that too, but we don't quite have the necessary joints and mobility. So, but that's what kind of comes to mind when you mention them. And so that then sometimes they're also noted to have a triangle on their heads sometimes as well. So that's just kind of what brings to mind when you had mentioned that part. Skipping to the last one that you had mentioned about the predator type being. Now there are some Andromedans, and that's so nebulous to say Andromedans. They're Andromedan. That's like me saying, well, hey, guess what? I'm a Milky Wayan. What the hell does that mean? Heck, does that mean? I mean, we're in the Milky Way. That's a huge place. So it's saying Andromedans, but these particular ones are like hermaphrodite androgynous women that have long dreadlocks, but they're big. When I say big, like 7, 8 feet tall. Okay, and they're muscular, and they're what's represented. They're represented in our entertainment quite a bit. They're warriors. In our entertainment, they're represented like as Whoopi Goldberg as Guinan. She had, the dreads. You've got Storm, who's got the gray hair, and supposedly that Andromedan female lineage is in the Mayans and in there with the Storm age, or sorry, Queen Sheba, who has the gray hair also. Supposed to be a genetic thing there, okay? Also, if you watch The Walking Dead, it's a bit morbid, but there's a sister on there named Michonne that's got the dreadlocks and the samurai sword. So there's several times they've been referenced. There's a book by Michael Desmarquet, and it's called Trip to the Seventh Planet, I think it is, or Ninth Planet. He's got a couple of them. He talks about meeting a species from Centaurus that were melanin dominant. And at first he thought he was on a ship full of females. And he started asking, he said, do you have men in your society? And they looked at him and they said, there are no men here. And there are no females here. And he started looking at them and seeing their shoulder, and some of them had Adam's apple, that they were an androgynous species. So that's kind of where the Wonder Woman thing clocks in as far as the representation. So the reason, and the dreadlock thing, just skip into that again. The difference, but in what you're saying, if you technically look at the Predator and some of the sketches that Stan Winston did for the first one, you realize, and first we think, well, they must be reptilians, especially when you think about when you see their hands and legs. But if you look at their mandibles, those are insectoid type creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that one too. Okay, so then going forward, okay, you had said what was the next one you would hit on? Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm doing this in order. The first one was about the brothers with the necks and the gold around their necks. What was the next one was?
I forgot. Do you remember, Teresa?
The
Sorry,
triangle. The triangle.
I've had 2 TIAs, so I kind of forget sometimes.
Oh, it's all right.
God dang it. So, well, the triangle one he already talked about. Okay,
one of them was a warrior, wasn't it? Doing something and something growing. There was an organic component to what you were saying.
Well, okay.
Sorry, I should have wrote it down as you were talking. I didn't.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I can talk about the near-death experience because I told you about that, and then I think those are the blue beings, the Hindu beings. But I want to know what.
I know what it was.
Okay, what was it?
Monkey-like being.
Oh yeah, the monkeys.
The monkey-like being. Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
the monkey
so check
protectors.
it out. When you say that, I have a question. Are you familiar with Lord Hanuman of Hindu Indian religion? Okay, Lord Hanuman was one of those gods that came here that was supposed to be 25 feet tall or taller. Okay.
Ooh.
And they've got these huge footprints in these mountains that they say are supposed to be him from jumping to mountain. Okay. But if you look at the way he's represented, he looks somewhat Sasquatch-like, but different. He's more monkey-like, and he's got a tail. He's always represented with a tail. And there's that gentleman, gosh, I want to mispronounce his name, Mohin Proveen, or like that, Mohan.
Mohan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
You met him, didn't you? Didn't I see a picture with you or something with him? Did you meet him?
No, but I follow his. I think he's on YouTube, right?
Oh, he's a genius. He's been killing it for years now. But
Wow.
he had mentioned it, and I heard others too that they're around some of those footprints at night in the jungle. There, you've got a situation where you've got these beings that are called the Vanara, and the Vanara are like Sasquatch type beings, but they have tails. And that they've been seen doing rituals around those those footprints. So when you start talking about being a monkey type being, I automatically start thinking about Lord Hanuman and about also about the Vanara, and kind of tying that in because that takes us into something else. And you've got melanin dominant beings that also came from the Triangulum galaxy in the cycle before. We never hear about that. We hear about Andromeda all the time and all these other places, but this is the Triangulum galaxy. And there's going to be a point where both the Milky Way, Andromeda, and Triangulum all merged together. But from Triangulum, you had those beings that were 25 feet and taller coming here, ones that had God or gold, monatomic gold within their bodies for real, and places like that where they had actually, as a population here, when you have places that are like what were their sanitation facilities, now you've got rare mineral deposits. You know what I'm saying? When you start going over a million some years, or you'd say, so we don't think about that, beings that would actually almost urinate a high content of gold particles. Things that we have to kind of Anyway, but that's what comes to mind when you talk about that. And I'll tell you something else, okay? Just to throw this in for you. I I got exposed as being a hypnotist some odd years ago, and I started doing it public, for the public, and I've learned even more since then. Because I like doing past life regressions and ET regressions, all that stuff, and I've had some unique people. But during a particular past life regression that's called Life Between Lives, the person will go through, when they go through that life, and between lives, there's a place that the soul, the spirit goes to, that I call the place of translation and reconfiguration. It could be an office, a library, a pond, any of these things. Like if it's an office, there'll be all these books, and the guide always comes naturally. The guide comes to the client naturally without me sitting there and going, "Hey, Veronica, hey, Teresa, do you see your guide yet?" It's not like that. They just come and they go over the book with the person that is normally this lifetime, and it's the person's choices and the intent behind their choices and how they affected others. Okay, and that's like the quote unquote panoramic life review part that I went to when I died. But anyway, at this place of reconfiguration, the not just going to place me anything, but the guide might be a man, it might be a woman, whatever. I had one that just advanced individual. They go this place of translation and reconfiguration. It's some type of a starship out time of space time continuum, looking at all these different universes. And every time, and they're going to reincarnate in one of these universes wherever they want. And and I know they're telling me the truth because I've seen other universes in the experience,
Yeah.
and some of them look like broken shards of glass. And this
I
individual
have seen
described
them
that.
too.
Yeah, they
I have seen,
described that.
it's
And
like Superman.
some of them being plasma, like just the other things. Like, for example, I say like, hey, well, what's the one up at the left? Look, what's the one at the top left like? They're like, which one? I said, the very top left in the corner. Like, oh, that's a nice one. They say it just takes into Star Trek Voyager. It's like species 872. Say it's fluidic space. It's like a type of fluidic space, and we exist there as these huge, similar to like amoeba organisms, microorganisms, but we're actually the size of like giant planets, like giant, huge exoplanets. And we all exist though in a collective consciousness state, very advanced state. And they're like, it's a very peaceful existence, but it's boring. I'm not
Yeah.
going back there. I'm going back to Earth to 19 such and such. And they get real specific. And what I always ask, Veronica, I've asked every client, hey, is the guide making you go there and reincarnate there? And their body may be like that, but they're very lucid. They look at me like I'm an idiot. No, I said, well, is the
Just
light
checking.
is the light making you incarnate there and do that? They know it's my choice. It is my choice, and I've experienced that every single regression I've done. And I'm not saying that
Okay.
the stuff that other people have and all this soul trap and this negative stuff, like we have no power, no control over our
Well,
spirit that's still one with Creator. I'm not experienced that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'll say this much: it's not the natural process we go through during the death cycle. Now, I have had
right.
a client that it's interesting, and I could probably say this openly because she's come forward. She's got the same name as you. Her name is Veronica. She's come forward. She's one of those individuals who was getting taken out of the tag program as a kid, like you were. And some of the things that they were saying in the way that they were being targeted to, like, and being groomed. And when I did a past life, I did several sessions. One of them was a past life regression. And the life before this one, people aren't always on Earth. She was describing being a totally different civilization and being part of a crew that is like a scouting mission that goes and rescues other planets that are going into type 1 civilizations, so they won't be under slavery like I think they're trying to do to us. And it's no offense, Veronica, I think you're a prime example of that, how they're trying to enslave us as we become a type 1 civilization. And that's what Jessica already saw as happened on TRAPPIST-1. Okay, so she's saying that they were rescuing planets going through that, at least part of the populations. Then when it came their time to transition, they're on the technology there, they're already seeing the next incarnation, where they're going to go, who they're going to be, and more particularly who the parents are going to be. And then by the time they incarnate here, the parents have already been manipulated by these organizations you've dealt with. So they do have the ability to know before somebody gets tagged just before birth. And that's something I went through my experiences when I'm dealing with this as insectoid being, not a mantid, but it looked like a grasshopper. You know, grasshoppers and locusts are actually the same species almost, but it looked more grasshopper-like with milky colored eyes and a green kind of green head, no antenna. All right. And this being was telling me, this was in the 6th grade. I call this the acid rain experience because I woke up on board this craft and they're showing me about acid rain. I didn't even think that was real and then and studied it yet in school. Anyway, point being, it's telling me that it's because the first thing, you know how it is when you're really in the presence of a non-human. They answer your question before you can formulate them in your mind
Yes.
telepathically. That's very disconcerting to me. It always has been. Okay, and the first thing I gotta know is first off, I don't care. I've been judged for this, but look, when you're for real in the presence of a non-human on some space, on a ship, you hardly have a frame of reference for. My first questions are, who the hell are you? Where are you from? What do you
Yeah.
want?
Yeah.
Because they could be dark. Just because I feel that love coming off their biofield and everything doesn't mean that I'm not maybe being deceived or some sort of false euphoria. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my first question, where are you from? And then he's putting in my mind, go 900 million light years outside the space-time continuum. And I didn't know what that meant. He was saying at first he's coming through, you won't understand. But I thought I was heavy because I watched Doctor Who, Star Trek. I was one of those kids. But he's right, I didn't know what the heck that meant. And then he's saying, since you don't understand, focus on the 3rd and 4th planets past Pluto. They're jumping off bases for your solar system because we have problem with the density, amongst other things. And at that time, I'm trying to think back, like, you lying to me? I didn't think they had even discovered what's the name of Pluto's moon out there? Not Pharisees, um, the one moon of Pluto. I was like, they had just discovered that at that time, and it took years later. I'm 30 years old, sitting in my office, and they're announcing trans-Neptunian objects and how they're found another Kuiper belt outside of Pluto.
Mhm.
Another
No.
target I gave Jessica was a remote view of those 3 and 4, Sedna and Make. And she saw these bases on there and she kept saying, what is this? She don't know what she's looking at. What is it? Observing the ticking time bomb. Observing the time bomb. It's Earth. Watching Earth. Anyway, point being just that anyway, sorry, I get too excited, but this being is describing that, then describing this type of frequency, this like energy net we come through as we're being born here that helps alleviate our soul life memories. So I think we already have an agreement to not remember some things, but this makes it worse. And so whatever this net is, it tags us. Veronica, I stole a term from Doctor Who that's called Artron energy, Artron, not Archon, but Artron. And what that is on the TARDIS, the TARDIS uses black holes to travel, MACOs, magnetically eternally collapsing objects, Rudy Shields calls them. But when going through those or being around that type of an engine or around beings that are using their kundalini and their orgone, their prana to help fuel and symbiotically the craft, it irradiates us. It irradiates our bodies, especially in a physical experience. And I can detect that on other contactees. And I'll know kind of somebody is or not, a lot of the time. And at the same time on Doctor Who, the government will use, or whoever it is, uses that marking to detect people that were been on board that TARDIS and where the doctor might pop back up. You know what I mean? They're trying to track it in that way. But I believe the same way that they can, those of us that have the bloodlines and the life experiences, past life, they tag us when we come in. And then once we come through the birth canal, then they can start doing all the stuff they did to you and break all our natural processes. You know what I mean? And then along with give us a neuro programming, some brain entrainment, things like, oh, don't go into the light because such and such told you. And then you get trapped here as an earthbound spirit. And those people aren't there to help. You know what I mean? So anyways, just food for thought I'll throw out with some fact, but I think it's important when dealing with that. But I have so much respect for that now. And when dealing with other clients that have simulate situations similar to yours. Okay, and there are people that aren't into this. They aren't in these communities. They might be coming to me for some sort of a totally different thing, a regression, whatever. But it comes out that they've been in these type of programs, you know. But I've heard this several times. Well, you understand? There's me here, and then there's this other me. There's this other me that does all this stuff, builds ships, has been around hybrids, and yada, and it goes on and on. But there's like two of us. I've heard that in multiple clients. And I know
Mhm.
this is a thing that everybody calls the alters now, but I keep it a little more confined than that. But when I start dealing with the possibility of digital twins, which I don't know how many they could do, and how they're uploading those kind, that's stuff people can look up. How they're consciously downloading memories into these digital twin. When you put digital
Yeah.
twin cyborg in, a whole nother thing comes up. So anyway, you know, but it's just, I think that that's really relevant right now and needs to be exposed neurocognitive law wise, so that can be stopped. That's ruining yours and other people's lives, causing these terrible health problems. All the
Yes.
stuff that's going on, you know, and there's no law to stop anybody or keep them accountable right now. And that's what Mind Nexus is trying to get established by real scientific data that proves those scannings, where this stuff is coming from, who's doing it, and what they're doing. You know, to a
Yeah.
degree, along with starting to removal of some of these biosensors and semiconductors in people's bloods that we're just getting
Yes.
poured on everywhere, but everywhere, the air, the chemtrails, bad food, you name it. They're throwing nano dust at us like it's nothing. You know, real quick before I shut up, I just recently did this thing on plasma, and due to my experiences with plasma, but something I had brought up during that live is what's called the Kordylewski clouds, Kordyweiski, Kordylewski clouds. And what these are, they're actually what they're calling now dusty complex plasma, which means, you know, you've got plasma that occurs in the state of not just gas, solids, liquids, and crystal. So you've got crystal plasma, okay, but you've also got when it goes into either the dark mode, the glow mode, or the arc mode. And the arc mode is like what the sun is. The sun is mostly plasma, when it's a lot glowing, and you've got those plasmoids that have a sheath around them, so you can have all types in one sheath. You know what I mean? But these Kordylewski clouds sit between us and the moon is one, and there's one on the other side of the moon, and they're nearly invisible, but they've been proven to be real now. And each one of them is 9 times the size of Earth. And there's something that this scientist, Japanese scientist named Kawa, Kuwaa, got it written down somewhere. But anyway, he has a thing, this Kawa ball, that's a plasma ball, and it shows how plasma has natural tendency, this complex plasma, to self-organize, self-reproduce, just like this nanotechnologies we're hearing about. And even more hardcore is that you've got these things sitting at the Lagrange parts of Earth, so they can't hardly be seen and be unaffected by electromagnetics and gravitational forces, but they're getting bombarded by solar wind. And that solar wind has tons of negative electrons, positive protons, positive ions. They're getting bombarded, and they're probably about 1 billion years old. So at
Mhm.
that point, you know, people like Robert Temple say that he believes that Kondalewski clouds are entities,
Mhm.
and advanced entities, and recording systems as well. So, you know, things like that, and there's something called the Sirian lenticular cloud that sits between Earth and the moon. And that's where a lot of people are going and getting this training. I had Jessica remote view that one too. Let's see if she picked up on that. Interesting show that one was. But,
Oh,
you
good.
know, I'm wondering, my question winds up being, could the Kondalewski clouds also be the lenticular craft? Are they the same thing? We start looking at quantum computers, and when they start to, I know we have the qubit right now, but they got this thing called I'm not very good with this stuff, but they call it the QDIT, DIT. It's supposed to be a whole nother level of processing for artificial intelligence, like beyond. And is that something like that we're dealing with those clouds? In Gnostic text, I think it's the Marconius that said between the earth and the moon was an entity called Metatron. That comes up in all these New Age books.
Connected to the eighth sphere.
I don't know. You can take it from there.
Have you heard of
That's
the eighth
really
sphere?
weird that you say that. That's my main guide, is Metatron.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't say it's
I
like
didn't
that.
ask for that. I did not ask for this, not consciously. But yeah, so yeah. And when I accepted it, I was able to stop doing all the psychic fairs and the gatherings and just have my own information. And I knew what was mine. I know what's my information and what's not. And the source, the origin of what's not mine. I know
Yeah,
where it's
yeah,
coming from. So
yeah,
that's,
yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's very important, because I don't allow, I don't do like channelings, but I get communications all the time, and
Yeah,
it
me
has to
too.
be from the right, very perimeters of what I'll even allow to communicate with me. Because sometimes
Yeah.
people don't know, they're bringing in stuff, they don't know what it is, who it is. Cats with, and we got a problem that
You
all of
just
our
got to
thoughts are
ask
not our own.
basic questions.
Yeah,
It's common sense. It's basic questions. Before I take you home to see my mama, who are you? What the hell do you want? You can't
Like Barry
answer that.
said,
You ain't
where are you
coming
from?
nowhere with me.
Yeah. I always ask, who are you and what do you want? But that's a
Yeah,
good one. Where are you from? Who are you and what do you want? In the astral,
yeah,
because you're right. They try and, like Barry said, Barry, about the light. Um, the reason why I was saying don't go into the first light because there's a second light, it's because when I had the near-death experience, I woke up in the hospital in the gown, and then there was these half beings, and I did ask you about them in
yeah.
2018, but now that you're here, Barry, let's talk about it and tell me about this light thing, okay? So that way I can get it straight. Because I always say I don't want to go into the light. They're gonna reincarnate me. Oh my God. So these beings are cut in half. They're like charcoal beings. They have yellow eyes, big eyes. They're black, jagged haircut like this. Years later, I see a book, a Hindu book, and that they're the blue beings from the Hindu beings that are in charge of reincarnating you here. But anyway, this is what I saw. So they were on my monitor, on my floor. I'm in my hospital gown, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? And I'm walking over them because I don't want them to grab me. They're like this, like waiting to grab me. Half of the body here, half the body there, on the monitor, on the sofa. And then I see a white light around the door. Okay. And I tell myself, I got to get out of here. I got to find out. I got to get a doctor or a nurse to tell me what am I doing here? I open the door, Barry. I'm back in the room. The beings are gone. My dad's in the corner. He's on the left corner. He's wearing his cowboy hat, button down shirt, corduroy pants. I run to him. He committed suicide when I was 13. I said, I'm not leaving. I'm staying here. In Spanish, I said, me voy a quedar aquí, papi. You cannot send me back. Aquí me voy a quedar contigo. And I started crying and crying, crying and holding on to him. He said, no, you have to go back. Tienes que volver. You have your children that love you and you're not done, he said. I'm like, I don't want to go back. I do want to see my children, but it's too painful there, Dad. I'm what they call a sensitive. I feel everything, and I can't do it anymore. And the next thing I know, I take the deepest breath and I'm back in my body. Everything's cut here, open there. I start taking out the tubes because they have me, down, like they have me strapped down. And I'm like taking everything down. I have this little scar in my nose. And I'm back. And I didn't want to be here. So I always say, don't go into the light unless you want to come back. But Barry, please talk to me about that because I need to understand.
One would be nobody can send you back in terms of if you're the part of us, we have all these terms that we use that in classifications that sometimes I need super conscious, divine over self, great over self, all these different things. The Uranta book there calls it the thought adjuster. Okay, but that's that part of us that is still in perfection with the creator. Like when I will do dissolving negative identities, we're truly
Mhm.
energy beings in four parts. We've got the body, the mind, body, spirit, and the negative self. And the negative self, so much of our free energy goes into that. Not all of our thoughts are our own, but we've got our own that are all negative, self-confidence problems, all these things. Then we hit trauma and that fractures those into negative identities. And the consciousness, the subconscious comes up and grabs them and buries them in the back, like these phones are running with these programs in the back. It says they're sleeping, but they're really not. And it drains an enormous amount of our energy. Okay. So that's just one thing to be aware of is that negative self. But we've got what it can be dissolved because our energy beings and our spirit is positive. Like, for example, the negative identities react to things that help create them, and they react in a way that's negative to the self. The spirit is positive and responds in a way that's positive to the self. So the spirit can dissolve the negative identities as we created them, but that makes us hella responsible, and some people don't like that, you know. But anyway, going back concerning the light, okay, and also our super consciousness, we're in tune with that. And when you come back, it's the agreement. It's the one sending you back. It's not anything else, you know. And I will always fight the idea like we're just so weak that these gray cats or whoever can just come and just steal your soul and take your super conscious. No, they can't unless
They
you're
did.
agreeing to on a certain level. And that's important, but it holds us completely accountable. Taking it a little bit further
Oh,
back to what you were mentioning, when it comes to the light, okay, first of all, like when I died, I didn't see a tunnel. That's not what I saw. And it's different depending on our mindset and also what we know knowledge wise. And also I've had for clients, the light comes in all different sorts of colors. It's been white before, but not often. A lot of times it could be yellow, it could be green. It's different colors. And I think that kind of correlates the nanos excuse me, the nanospectrums. I think correlate with our soul groups too. You know, the soul groups somewhat are done like Roy G. Biv, you know, and that's got a lot to do with that. So the light is not, I think people are obsessing about that, the way it comes in all sorts of different ways. It's more of a medium for communication. I heard these very intelligent brothers the other day, and these brothers were sharp. And everyone wants to say, oh, don't go in the light because your ancestors will be over here and the light will be here. Make sure you go to your ancestors and not them. And that goes to, I've heard different variations of that because I'm very into what can we do to miss the loss of life memories after we die. Okay. But the truth is, what I've experienced is the light in the family, it all comes together. You know what I mean? It's not just one separate things. Now, real quick, when it comes to what you're worried about, if I can find this, oh, here's one right here. Okay, so I did a video a while ago, okay, and it was called The Mind of God and the Eagle. And I based it on these two things. This one right here, which is actually Ray Hernandez and the CCRI book that's called The Mind of God. It's the last one they had put out. And it's really good. And I was comparing that to what the Great Eagle. There was the author Carlos Castaneda, and in, like by the time I was a sophomore, junior in high school, I read all his books like twice. You know, he's pretty good at something he says. But and there's a book that called The Eagle's Gift. Okay, he talks about that the universe is shaped like an eagle, and that when we die, we go in through the beak of the eagle. Okay, and how the beak of the eagle consumes our life memories. Okay, now um, this book right here, The Mind of God, what Ray and these philosophers are saying that the mind of God is actually this repository we return to at death that takes our life memories for part of the repository, wipes us clean, and sends us wherever we're going. Okay. And it comes to what techniques can be used to avoid that. I don't know about you, but I don't want to lose all my life memories here. I worked hard for this. And part of it can
yeah.
also be as we're immortal souls, okay, meaning we're omnipotent and omnipresent. and that our major adversary is boredom, because we know the outcome of every possible quantum possibility, every quantum outcome, and there's nothing left except for us to wipe ourselves clean and remember that we're God fragments. Okay, so that's a part of that too. But point being, how can you avoid losing life memories during this repository of God, the mind of God, or the beak of the eagle, whatever you want to call it? Okay, and there's a couple of techniques. One would be the recapitulation that Carlos Castaneda talks about, bringing all the energy through pranayama breaths and visualization that we've left in everything we've been with, bringing that energy back to us and recreating that. Then when the death process hits you, okay, and you go through the eagle, it takes the recapitulation and leave the recap, we call it, and leaves your soul memory intact. So you reincarnate with soul memories fully intact. You know, another one is what's called the ISIS thesis by Judy K. King. And that deals with actually that our uncoded DNA, aka junk DNA, is mostly viral and bacterial. And that we've got something called bacterial phage that can be actually activated and stop us from losing our life memories. And there's a technique that goes with that, which is like these Egyptian poses and things that go with the sound at death too, that's supposed to help you to miss losing your life memories. It's another type of technique. Going all the way down to, you know, around us, we have a microbial cloud that's like a few feet outside of us. It's all bacterial and also DNA that's dying off. So it's very interesting. And she says her whole thing is that the ISIS thesis is that the pharaohs were wrapping themselves and doing the mummification to give the body a chance to activate the phage lambada so that the life process, so that the life memories retain. These are just a few things that can be dealt with, you know. But I think that even outside of those, once we go through the shock of death, I only say my experiences, especially with the clients, is that once you go through the, and earthbound spirits too, I've done about 700 of those now. But once they actually, you know, the shock of death is heavy sometimes. And it's the shock of death that leads to this disorientation and a lot of things that can happen during that time. And you have the ability to not go into light, not progress forward or anything. But I'll tell you this, before I do a crossing, okay, of an earthbound spirit, I can already see, before they'll even announce, I can see the portal. I can see might be people standing there, one, two, whoever, people waiting for these people. And then the earthbound will finally, when it announces itself, and when I start going into the love of the creator, non-religious way, straight love of God, suddenly they start seeing the light. And then they'll see the people that have always been there already. And they'll get all emotion. And then emotional, they wind up crossing over. And believe the earthbounds I've dealt with are quite chatty. I'm not talking about the demonic level. I'm talking about that grandma and grandpa didn't cross over because they couldn't let go of that crib, or somebody was addicted to something, or that loved one was standing there going, "Oh, please don't go, please don't go," and then they won't. I can't just go and leave them, and that takes us into the whole free will zone that people say we don't have. We do, and we're actually powerful in that way, you know. But anyway, that's my thing on that. So I can't tell you necessarily everything that happens in the light, but I can say that we change in there, and it's not a forced reincarnation immediately. It's been this weird, Veronica. In fact, this was when I took about a month off from doing sessions, but before that, I had one, and this individual, really nice person, they had like 12 of them attached, and I can cross over about 14 earthbounds before I start getting tired. But we got to the 12, and what made it go really fast is almost each one of them attached to the individual was a family member, like large family. But I mean, we're jumping this individual because they could see, and once the person dies, they can still see that energy on them, and they join with them. But then by the time I got to about the third one crossed over, the fourth one is telling me, "Oh, well, there's such and such," and it's another earthbound that was just in the body, but they crossed over, and they're describing them as having this energy around them. Sometimes it could be wings. We perceive it as wings, with these energetic frictions and these energetic body, and they've got one of those bodies of light. And so I don't understand what the time frame is once you're in the light. But it happens to where that quick you had cats that went through a transformation to being that next container for consciousness. That quick by the time I could do the others. I think that's noteworthy. And the fact that we're not being told a lot about the death process at all. Going back to something like Paramahansa Yogananda, uh, Autobiography of a Yogi. You know, when his teacher, Sri Yuchiswar, when he died, he was pretty traumatized, and he came back to Paramahansa Yogananda at some point and manifests, I think he said, this silver stuff around him. And he tells him, you know, I'm on such and such level of the Bardo, because he had some knowledge and he kind of manifested higher. And the Bardo means the Bardo Thodol Tibetan Book of the Dead. That's what's really called, Bardo Thodol. Bardo are the different levels, astral levels, we can manifest on after death. You know, if I'm not a religious brother, but if I was, I could tell you could look at like the Uranta book and they say the mansion worlds. And I think it's in the Christian Bible was said in my house, my father's house is many mansions or something. But that's these mansion worlds, these astral worlds, these Bardo worlds.
I've been into the mansion worlds in my dreams, and they're very high up. It's kind of like where like Tartaria times, or like they're beautiful.
Have you seen the palaces, the crystal palaces?
Yes, but the crystal palaces that I've seen are underground, under water, that I remember. I don't know if it's Sirius B or what, but I know that I was there underground. There's a 13 crystal palaces. And then in my dreams I've had where I'm looking at the sky and there's crystal ships, and then they fall in front of me and I pick them up and they're crystals. They're beautiful. There's just so many things that I see. I've seen the many universes. Here, I took a picture, I'm not kidding. I took a picture last year of where there's we have solar power here, towers. I mean solar power, solar panels here, a 5G tower there, and then the lines. So I took a picture and I saw a cube and I posted it on YouTube. It's still there. It's a cube, and then it's an Asian person looking above the cube, and they're huge. They're huge entities. And I've seen the huge entities also in my trees through the ring camera. I've seen my wolf. She's here in the tree. I posted it on, it's just a lot of things. Real quick, I know you have to, let me know when you have to go. The Mantids, I love all that you're saying. This is amazing.
Hey, you know, I had
It's
Jessica
amazing.
remote view those large cubes that have been seen through the Soho website. I had a remote. I gave her those a black target. Excuse me, a blind target.
Really?
Yeah, and it was fascinating what she saw. But I gave her two. One was the spear. In fact, that spear has been seen with like almost deflecting um, earthbound solar flares. And then there's another, these cubes are seen around the cube quite a bit. If you go to the Soho website, the Soho website has these data archives, and it's a little bit hard to learn to manipulate them. But you know, the Soho for years has been taking pictures of the sun like every 2 minutes, and it's like in all these different nanospectrums. So you can look at the sun in the green nanospectrum, the blue, the yellow, and in certain different nanospectrum the clips, you'll see these things coming in and out of the sun. It's remarkable. Even on YouTube, you can probably type it in and people will get it, because there's so many archives, but they can be found. So I wanted to know, you know, what is it? Because I've long since believed that not just is the sun plasma, but that the black holes around the sun or within the sun are actually portals. And we start dealing with type quote unquote 3 and 4 civilizations that use actually not just the power of a star, but the fabric of a mako of a black hole itself as a power source. Whole another thing going on. And I had given her another target that was the weaponized portals of Earth. You know, I used to follow the work of John Brandenburg. And John Brandenburg was really a plasma physicist, biophysicist. And then he wrote that book, Death on Mars, based on that xenon 120 and other things that were found in the atmosphere that shows definitely nuclear disaster from probably above. Okay. Anyway, but he was talking about the portals of Earth being being manipulated, and how they're trying to use sound and other things and make artificial ones to actually control them. So I gave her that as a blind target. I want to see like who's trying to control the portals. and she started going crazy with the data with the Earth or with the sun. It was all about the sun. And I realized like how these cats are trying to weaponize the sun.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so anyway, sorry, I may have
Yeah.
got off target on that, but
Yeah, because
the cubes. On board those cubes, you know what she started describing? Some type of AI the size of skyscrapers, like processors
Yeah.
the size of skyscrapers. And to be honest
I'll
with you,
send you
to
the
me,
picture.
it was a bit creepy, eh?
Very
It was
creepy.
a bit creepy.
Very
Because those
creepy.
things would be like twice the size of Jupiter. I'm sorry, you say something? Sorry.
No, I'm gonna send you the picture because I still have that video. I did a short video on the picture, but I'm gonna send you that picture and I used it as a thumbnail too. I was like, what the heck? Is this real? But I've also seen them in the astral, so right outside my building. It's crazy. I've also seen I've seen two suns in my dreams, and I've also taken pictures of them in 2017. And then there's a circle with a thing like a projector coming out of it by the moon, and it was a black sphere with a projectile by the moon. This was in 2019.
Do you know what the sun simulator is?
Yeah, they put
Have you
it
seen the
in.
patent for it?
I did long ago though. Mhm.
Yeah, that's what that is. I think
Yeah.
that between that and what's also called a toposcopic or topospheric reflection that the Earth does, it gives the illusion of there being two suns. But nonetheless, that solar simulator is something that they're messing with. You know, that's the one
Yeah.
there, even on like the original Star Trek movie from '76, when Enterprise is sitting in the dock, you see it's being lit up by these honeycomb looking things that look just like that sun simulator. So that stuff's been around for a minute.
Yes, and in my Ring door camera, I'm gonna do another video soon. I don't know when, but I've been collecting data. I've done it before where these things they go through people. I've seen them in the Ring camera that are fast like that, white, sometimes 3, 4, and they go right through you. They go, and then I've seen how the sun simulator comes up on the Ring camera because it's already kind of light, right? And then all of a sudden, the sun's up, but the sun's already up. And then that's the sun simulator that comes up. I've
See
seen
that
it.
there, those sound like energy zoa,
Okay.
or critters. And those
Yeah.
critters, you know, they're like almost microorganisms that live on that DOR, deadly orgone radiation, that dark prana. And you know, and if you really look at like those critters that are around, sometimes the cloud busters, that's how I found out about them. Or even the rods. You kind of described rods there. If you look at those rods and stop and see the pictures, compare them to flagellum. They look quite similar to me. These are
Yeah.
microorganisms that are feeding on energy, whatever word we want to use, DOR, loose energy, what the hell ever, you know. But it's it's you know
Like the
it's that's interesting.
yeah, the Planck technology. I was talking to my brother-in-law. He's an engineer, and I told him, about Planck technology. You can't see that shit. Enrico Fermi talked about it. I have that book, The Man Who Knew It All, Enrico Fermi. And he's like, oh no, that's in the future. I go, no, dude, that Planck technology, you can't see it, but
Yeah.
it's there. I can feel things, and it's really interesting. I think it could have something to do with that. But real quick, going back to huh? Okay, meaning I love you. Thank you, Pa. I love you. Stay safe. So going back to I had a vision of going through the 12 spheres. And I said, how am I going to get out of here? To like get out. I don't want to come back. I want to go create another world, outside of Earth. I just want to do my own thing, for a while. I'm going to go past the 8th sphere, I told myself. And then I saw in the vision, you know who I saw? I saw the Martian from Mars. There's 2 of them. And then they gave me all my paperwork. Okay. And then they opened the dome of Earth, and then boom, I was let go to the dark, to the black, to the outer, wherever I wanted to go. They gave me permission. But this is after going through the 12 spheres. this is just in a vision. It's kind of weird. I know Warner Brothers and The Martian from Mars, you know. The mantis, I have seen the mantis. We were having a ball for church back in the day at the Christian church. We would have balls every year. We would dress up. I was in the dream. I was picking out a dress, a beautiful dress in a closet, and then there comes a praying mantis. He's a praying mantis, green, but he has the head of a human. Doesn't have antennas. He has big glasses, the human face, and then he has a glass dome around him. And I'm like, hi, and he's drinking water because we take turns drinking water in the water fountain. And then I said, hi, and he goes, hi, and then he goes like this. He goes back with his hand, and then he shows me, and his praying mantis body, same thing, praying mantis baby with praying mantis body, but the head is like a human and is in a glass with glasses. And they're smiling and they're good people. I mean, you know, entities. To me, they are. And then let me see. I was born here with a purple butt. And then Teresa's saying that must have been my tail, because it was the bloodlines came through, and my kids were born that way. My sisters were born that way. I'm O negative. My whole family is O negative, meaning my grandparents are O negative, except for one. She's from Basque. She's P negative. But anyway, I wouldn't mind maybe doing another show. And I'm going to see if I can get these books so I can read all that. But you're highly loved here. I love you, and you're highly loved in this channel, and you're always welcome. And I take to heart what you told me about the light, because we are creators. And you know what? Yes, I came back because I'm not done, and my kids are here, and you guys are here, and we're here to help humanity.
Here's the thing. I got to tell you honestly, it's a trip, because I myself had to change some of my views when I started doing a bunch of the work in the sessions. And there's a wise old saying that a wise person changes their opinions to fit the facts. A fool changes the facts to fit their opinions. I'm trying to be somewhat intelligent about it, But something about us, as when they say we're made in the Creator's image, it's not necessarily, I think, in the humanoid, it means as much as the creative principle passes through us, which means we are creators in that way. There was an episode of Star Trek Voyager that they had a Q, if anybody watches that, but a Q that were omnipotent and omnipresent is trying to commit suicide. And when they find out, the other Q shows up and they try to find out why, he takes him to the continuum. And the continuum looks like this gas station just out in the middle of nowhere. There's some people just saying nothing. And Janeway's like, what's with the road? And he's like, well, that's the cosmos. It goes forwards, it goes backwards, and we've been everything in the cosmos. And he looks at it, so you notice nobody's saying anything here. He said, no, there's nothing left to say. We've done everything. We've been everything.
We know everything.
Yeah. And to me, that when the book of Tibet, the book of the Tibetan Book of the Dead I had, Bardo Thodol, it talked about this level after you go through the reviews and things that where when the positive love comes back, the positive things you've done, and then you begin to raise levels. But you get to a level that it described as, the book I had to describe as like this being this beautiful beach, most beautiful beach you've ever seen, with like anything you want could be brought to you. Okay. And start saying at that point though, but these beings stay on that beach and have lost their aspiration to go closer to the Creator. And as we wrap this up, I'll tell you something that I kind of wrap that too, is that reminds me of the Q and us dealing with boredom. When we were all kids, the first time you played hide and go seek, everybody's going to be, but you played it a few more times just to stop from getting bored, maybe a bunch of more times. So we're ultimately really going against that boredom. You know what I mean? And I know we bring this to close, but check it out. So like during these sessions, before I had stopped for a while, I had this session where I had actually just, sometimes I want to make sure that there are no other earthbounds that are going to try to jump the client after the session is done, that are hovering around. So this time I want to, I'll do like an evaluation of the room. And this time there are no earthbounds, but there are the others beings there. 4 other beings that are all kind of connected, and they say that they came from what we would call the 4th mansion world or the 4th density. And they were saying we're actually watching and observing. We're observing love. We want to know more about love because love permeates all dimensions and all times and the whole universes, everything. And then they start saying this one is very chatty, this chatting, and it's saying, to the client saying, we've been watching. She says, this one says, I was a female and I used to be on Earth. I had a couple of incarnations on Earth. Now I exist as this. And we've watched you and you've talked about the soul. And we think that the soul is the same as our spirit body. It's the same thing we think. And then they start saying, you understand, we're good. Where we're at, good. We're good. Where we're at, and the spirit body is all that, and we think that maybe that's the same thing, but then we're not sure because of love. Love permeates everything, and maybe there is something more, and there is a soul. And to me, though, I mean, it was odd to hear them put that, but for me, in my primitive way, I'm thinking the Bardo Thodol, these are beings on what they're calling the 5th density, the 5th mansion world, that are so blissed out that they think, hey, this is it. We're good. And they're not trying to still go any higher or closer to the creator. It was weird to be able to put, it's one thing to read the concepts, but it's another actually see it in the field. You know what I mean? Kind of like learning psychology concepts. Like everybody knows about the dog and the slavering and slobbering and all that. Well, how do you put that actually, that type of classical conditioning on a client in the field? It's not the same thing. It's different, but it's you know what I mean? Anyway, it's food for y'all.
Yeah, the Pavlov dog. Yeah, I think about that a lot. I took psychology at the university. I know exactly what you mean. But the love, Barry. When I first awakened, where the light came out of my chest and I woke up. I mean, I was awake and I was asking, if there is a God that truly loves me, I'm not going to kill myself for the 4th and final time. I said. So there's this light that came out of my chest, white light, and then there was at the same time there was a star, a shooting star that came and was on the ground. And then my friends and I went outside, like, what happened? Where's the hole? What was that? And I didn't know who that was until years later. They call me a walk-in, but I'm like, all I know is that that's me coming to rescue myself. And I know that there is a God bigger than the God of the Bible and whatever they call it. It's just love, and for months, Barry, for 3 months, and we'll end with that. I was in bliss. I understood what bliss was here on earth. It was just pure love for everyone. And that was amazing.
When I died, so I had this car accident, and during the car accident, I took 4 catastrophic traumatic brain injuries: hematoma to the frontal lobe, hematoma to the quarter lobe, hematoma to the brainstem, and then I have what's called diffusal axonal, which means when I hit, my brain shifted in the case. Okay, and that's especially what was killing me. And so I was in a coma for about a little over 2 weeks, and it took me about 3 weeks to remember who I was after that. And when I say that, really my pattern of decision making. They said I never would, that I'd be a vegetable. But before lifetime vegetable, devoid of long-term life memories, especially. I will say anything but, thank to God. But before I even remembered who I was, I saw these beings in my mind's eye, and I could still feel them. They weren't still present, but I could still feel them, and I remembered them. And I could call them angels, but I think that kind of is not enough.
Limiting.
This book here, this Uranta book, I've got. Oh, Lord, that was elegant. There's this book. I've got issues with this book, this Uranta book. But when it comes to their classifications of like the seraphic organization on Earth and otherwise, they have beings that they call supranaphim, Naphim, which are like, I guess, a type of like archangel or whatever, but different function. I'm convinced that that's what these beings were. Okay, and I want to tell you, they were regal. I saw 4 of them, different colors, and they weren't humanoid form. These were like corpuscles of light, strands of light, and with these like almost shields around them, I would say. And outside of that, it looked like steam. And they had so much love coming off them, it was almost a little painful as far as pure God love. And I'm sure they were tapering it down, or I don't think my body could have taken it, you know. And I know that they channeled the psychokinetic energy from all those people that came by and really did pray for me to help me to heal. You know, so when I woke up, I'm still seeing in my mind's eye, even after I remembered who I was, I could think again. I had to compare the love and the non-physicality of these super nanofem compared to some of these non-physical plasma type beings I've met on board some of these craft that are emitting a lot of this love energy too. Okay, but they're different. These others were, you know what I mean? Like I know the others will probably get there, but just different in regalness, different in love intensity. So just, you know, again, things for people to think on, you know.
Yeah. Thank you, Barry. Thank you so
My
much. I
pleasure.
know you have to go, so they can find you on Facebook. Can we do another show? I'll contact you.
Yeah, we do
Okay.
another. Yeah, let's contact. I'll happily do one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I got a lot of stuff on YouTube. Please check me out YouTube, Barry Littleton on YouTube. I don't have any cool handles or anything. So
Yeah, send me your links and then I'll post it after I do the thumbnail because I was having problems with the thumbnail, so I had to borrow someone else's thumbnail.
oh, hey, sorry I
For
didn't get your message. I'm sorry about that. Sometimes I get inundated with those messages, people tagging me and stuff. I don't go through them all every day. So
No,
sorry
it's
about that.
okay. I will read everybody's things. I'll let you go, Barry, and then I'll just read what everybody said, and then we'll end the show. I love you. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate you having me. It's nice to meet you, Teresa. And let's talk again
Thank
soon,
you.
okay? Thank you both.
Will
It's been a
do.
pleasure.
10-4, rubber ducky. Bye.
Hey, thanks, ladies. Have a good night, all right? Bye-bye.
Good night, Barry. Thanks, everyone. So we have RKYMNST Skywatcher. Hi, just saw this notification. Hi. And then we have Mushroom Mummy. Oh my God, hi. And then could you expand on Angel Elon? I remember you mentioned something about it, one of your previous lives. And then that should be on a shirt, Barry. And then Callie in the Raw has great videos on this stuff.
I've never mentioned that. I've never mentioned that. I've never.
No?
Only Elon I know is Elon Musk, and he ain't got nothing to do with me.
I don't like that nanobot. I don't like him at all. Kelly in the Raw.
Actually, there was named. Actually, there is Elam, ELAM. That might be what they're talking about. That's somebody that's been listening to me for a long time. Then, that's a long time ago. I mentioned that name. Wow, that was what past me at first. Yeah, ELAM. Oh wow, that's a trip.
Yeah,
I've only mentioned that maybe once in all these years. Wow.
Mushroom Mommy said that. Mushroom Mommy, if you want to like shout her out later on your show too. Thank you, Mushroom Mommy. Now Kelly in the Raw, she unfortunately took down my videos we had live with her. We did 4 videos on it. She just, I don't know what happened. She took down my videos. I told her she was in the program too and that her grandfather was CIA. And then she blocked me and took down my videos. But we did talk about the blue beings, you know. Anyway, it says a bilocation like, this is by RKYMTN Skywatcher. When you can see through an alter's eyes, but you know it's you, not you. Yeah, real quick, I had a dream where I fell asleep in my bed, but then in the dream, I woke up on my bed on the opposite side, and then I came in from the gym, and I sat down with my headphones, and the me that was on my bed told the other me, hey, don't fall asleep, Veronica, and then I woke up. So I know I have double out there. And then Mushroom Mummy, imagine remembering 100,000 years worth. Huh?
I gotta take off actually. Yeah.
Okay. Bye, Barry.
Hey, thank you for having me, definitely. And I'll try to go back and look at all that stuff and do that when I get back and everything.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you
sorry I had to leave so early because I didn't know it was a deal. I have to take my dad to this game and stuff, but I didn't know.
No, go. You go. We talked a lot before.
Hadn't started yet. We scheduled this, and I didn't want to reschedule with you. I figured we could squeeze it in.
Thank you.
Yeah,
go have fun and eat hot dogs and popcorn for me.
I don't do popcorn. I like that stuff in my teeth. That stuff go down under the gum, man.
or a beer or a slushie or a shot. Just kidding.
A little Patron chilled, man. Maybe.
Little Patron.
Probably not tonight. I gotta be careful. I'm starting to work again. I don't want to have any attachments.
Yeah.
Oh no, you don't want that. Yeah, we just joke about it because we don't want all those attachments. Okay, see you,
Well, hey,
Barry.
thank you both for having me. It's been a pleasure. And keep in touch. Let me know if your audience liked it or not. They may throw some onions at me. Boo! Whatever.
No, they love you. They just keep going. They say thank you. So we'll see you later, Barry.
Let's go. Hey,
Have a
thank you
good
both.
one.
Sorry I got to run. Hey, God bless and have a good night. All right, ladies?
All right.
Bye-bye.
You too. Stay safe.
Bye.
Hey, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Are we still on YouTube?
No, we're done. I
We're
better
done.
go. 'Cause, I don't know if we're on YouTube or not, but let me just finish these
I'm
real
gonna
quick.
come pick you up in the morning.
Okay, sounds good. Hold on, let me just read this. I think we're still on them. I just wanted to read these real quick. Mushroom Mummy, something like they can only fool us once. Enjoy something your journey. And then somebody was laughing. And then my 2 cents, son of man in the sky, son of God, us as collective raw, son of the omniverse, the OG creator. And then RK Skywatcher, sorry, I'm not saying it right. At the point of creator is the most incredibly amazing, holy, encompassing love that cannot be held here. It's true. And then Mushroom Mummy, thank you, Barry. Yes, I have watched you for years and years. Thank you, everyone. I love you. Thanks for watching. I'm going to turn it off now. Thank you for being
Namaste.
on.